Why do some men attract success, while others chase it their entire lives, exhausted, frustrated, and quietly defeated? Let's be honest. You've worked hard, you've read the books, made the lists, set the goals, but the results? Still slipping through your fingers. Because effort alone is not the answer. Chasing harder isn't the path. In fact, it's the trap. The truth? You don't get what you want. You get what you are. Success isn't pursued, it's attracted by the man you've become. And until you become the kind of man success seeks, you'll keep running in circles. This is where Stoicism enters. Not as an ancient idea, but as a modern weapon. A system for rewiring your core through discipline, emotional control, clarity, and deep work. It teaches you to stop reacting and start commanding, to stop forcing outcomes and start embodying value. This isn't about hacks, it's about becoming. In this video, you'll learn exactly how to lock in for 90 days and forge a new identity, the kind that doesn't beg for progress, but naturally attracts it. You'll get a step-by-step routine rooted in Stoic habits, identity shift, and mental toughness, built for men ready to rise. So don't just watch, move. Like this video, subscribe to Stoic Narratives, and share it with a brother stuck in the grind. Your evolution doesn't start with a plan, it starts with you. Let's build him. Now, 1. Burn the exit. Begin the discipline. The first real step in any transformation isn't inspiration, it's eliminating escape. A true decision isn't made when you choose the path forward, it's made when you destroy every route back. This is not the moment you decide to improve, it's the moment you declare war, not against the world, but against the version of you that has kept you average. The soft version, the distracted version. The one that scrolls instead of executes, that negotiates with moods instead of commanding results. That man must die here. Right now. Picture this. You step onto a train. It's moving, slow at first, but gaining speed with every passing second. Once you're aboard, you're not thinking about jumping off. You've committed to the journey. Burning the exit is the act of watching that train leave the station and choosing never to return. Not because the ride is smooth, but because the destination matters more than your comfort. Discipline begins the moment you lock the door behind you, throw away the key, and stop asking how you feel about it. The modern man doesn't drift, he builds forward. He acts like retreat no longer exists, because it doesn't. You've probably said this time will be different before, but the difference isn't in the plan, it's in the point of no return. You've made plans before, but did you cut the exit? Did you shut down the back door in your mind that always whispers, if it gets hard, we can stop? That whisper is the voice of the past self, and it must be silenced. Not with motivation, not with hype, but with finality. A line drawn in silence, a private vow that no one else hears, but that shapes everything you do from this moment on. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes more than words. The Stoics didn't chase ease. They didn't look for options. They chose their path once, then followed it regardless of storms. To them, discipline was freedom, not because it felt good, but because it removed choice. When the choice is already made, the mind is clear. You are no longer wasting energy deciding, you are investing energy in doing. So from this moment on, you move without asking. You rise without checking how you feel. You work, not because you're inspired, but because you've burned the bridge behind you. This is where the transformation begins. Because when there's no exit, all that remains is progress. When there's no escape, there's only execution. And execution, day after day, becomes identity. You don't need to feel ready. You need to shut the door behind you and turn the lock. No more half measures, no more backup plans, no more waiting for perfect conditions. If you keep checking the weather, you'll never plant the seeds. Burn the map that leads back to who you used to be. That man made excuses. That man relied on motivation. That man hoped something would change without becoming someone new. But that man is no longer here. You've stepped into something deeper, something harder, something real. There will be days when the old you try to rise. He'll whisper, "Take it easy today." He'll say, "You've earned a break." But you're not here for easy. You're here to become someone unrecognizable. And becoming that man requires burning comfort and carrying fire. You're not allowed to drift anymore. You're not allowed to repeat the cycle. You're not available for softness. Your word is now law. Your mission is now identity. So take this as your moment. Quiet, focused, no cheering, no spotlight, just you. And the unshakable decision to never go back. This isn't about being perfect, it's about being permanent. This isn't about hype, it's about identity shift through consistent execution. This is not the season for inspiration, it's the season for deletion of every excuse, every escape route, every soft edge that kept you average. Lock in, move forward. No more checking for exits, you've burned them, now build. Forge your identity in 90 days. Forget what you've been told about fixed nature. Your brain is not set in stone, it's clay. And the next 90 days are your window to shape it. Not through inspiration, but through deliberate repetition. Identity is not something you're born with. It's something you carve, one disciplined act at a time. You are not stuck with the man you were, but you will be if you keep doing what he does. Every time you repeat a behavior, you are casting a vote for the kind of man you're becoming. Not once, not twice, but every day, without deviation. That's how a fighter is made. Not through the hype, through patterns. Think about martial arts. At first, every move is awkward. You overthink the jab, you hesitate on the kick, and you question your footing. But through hundreds of repetitions, it becomes instinct. No longer forced, no longer conscious. It becomes a reflex. Not because the move changed, but because you did. You became someone else. Someone who doesn't think about discipline. Someone who is disciplined. And that's exactly what happens in these 90 days. The man you are today is shaped by the last 90. The man you'll be next is shaped by what you do starting now. The Stoics understood this long before neuroscience proved it. Epictetus said, "We are what we repeatedly do, not what we say, not what we intend, what we do." Do you want to rewire your life? Then rewire your patterns, rewire your mornings, rewire your decisions. Through repetition, without apology, without negotiation. No resets, no start fresh on Monday. Discipline is not a choice you make daily. It's a system you enforce until it enforces you. You don't need a new goal, you need a new identity. An identity doesn't come from vision boards or motivational talks. It comes from aligned behavior, repetition, alignment, identity shift, the kind that doesn't require affirmations because the proof is in the pattern. You don't say "I'm focused," your actions say it for you. You don't whisper "I'm a builder," your routine screams it every morning. You don't chase discipline, you become a man who doesn't recognize life without it. This is how you separate from the masses. Most men start, few repeat. Most talk about change, few walk into it. Because repetition is boring. It's unsexy, it's quiet, it's thankless, and it works. Do you want to know why your life feels stuck? Because your habits are glued to a past version of you. You can't build a new life on yesterday's patterns. You can't create a future while behaving like a man who doesn't deserve it. So here's the shift. From today on, what you do isn't just what you do. It's who you are training to become. You miss a workout? That's not just a missed session. That's a vote for your old self. You snooze your alarm? That's not harmless. That's you reminding your brain that comfort still wins. But the opposite is also true. You rise at 5 and move? That's a groove being carved into your identity. You show up even when it's inconvenient? That's what you're becoming. Quietly, relentlessly. In Stoic terms, this is virtue in motion, not emotion, not inspiration, motion. You act because it's right, not because it feels right. You train your mind to serve the mission, not your mood. That's how warriors are made. That's how you stop trying and start being. So don't chase results. Chase the process that produces results. Don't obsess over the goal. Obsess the action. The action is the only thing that belongs to you. Your job is not to worry about how far the mountain is. Your job is to take the step again and again and again, until the climb itself becomes natural, until discipline is no longer a demand, but a default, until no one, not even you, remembers the man who used to hesitate. That's the power of 90 days. Not because it's magical, because it's math. Repetition rewires the brain, and once the wiring shifts, the war is won. Not on the outside, on the inside. That's where change lives, and that's where you're going. If, and only if, you're willing to do the work without asking if it's working. Trust the system. Run the reps. Become the man. 3. Discipline over motivation. Have you ever wondered why motivation rises like a tide and vanishes just as fast, leaving you stranded with unfinished goals and a guilty conscience? Because motivation is a spark, quick, emotional, unreliable. It burns bright but dies fast. What you need isn't another spark, you need steel. The kind is forged through discipline. The kind that doesn't flicker when life gets hard. The kind that stays sharp under pressure. Men who rise don't depend on moods. They operate from the mission. You wouldn't trust a surgeon who only operates when they feel inspired. You wouldn't board a flight knowing your pilot flies based on whether or not they feel like it. Professionals move regardless of feelings. They execute based on standards, systems, on commitment. So why treat your personal mission with anything less? Your life deserves the same level of seriousness, the same demand for consistency, the same refusal to negotiate with comfort. Stop waiting for the right moment. That's a lie you've used to delay your rise. Discipline doesn't ask you how you feel. It doesn't care about weather, comfort, or convenience. It shows up, it moves, it repeats. And in that repetition, it builds identity. That's where power lives. That's how momentum is born, not from bursts of effort, but from daily effort, stacked. One quiet decision at a time, one workout, one deep work block, one refusal to scroll when you said you'd build. That's how warriors are made. That's how men separate from boys. This is where Stoicism becomes more than philosophy. It becomes code. A man of virtue doesn't act based on his emotions. He acts from clarity, from values, from the inner compass that isn't swayed by chaos or cravings. The Stoics taught that what matters is not what happens, but how we respond. And that response, over time, is trained. Just like muscle, just like skill, just like the mind. You want mental toughness? Then stop waiting to feel ready. Toughness is built in the absence of motivation. It's built when your body is tired, your mind is loud, and your calendar is full, but you still execute. The world rewards consistency, not intensity. You don't need a heroic burst of effort. You need relentless follow-through. The man who trains once a week when inspired is never a threat. The man who trains daily, even on tired legs and foggy mornings, becomes unstoppable. Because his actions no longer ask permission. They no longer bend to emotion. They are the product of identity. That's the shift, from emotion-driven behavior to identity-based action. You stop negotiating, you stop asking, you do what must be done, because that's who you are now. And when you live this way, when you make the leap from trying to being, everything changes. Your mind clears, your actions align, your energy builds. People start to notice something different in you, even if you say nothing. Not because you brag, but because your presence speaks for itself. The calm, the certainty, the rhythm. That's discipline. That's the Stoic path, and it's built, not found. So build it. Start now. Set a wake-up time and obey it. Define your non-negotiables and honor them. Refuse to check your phone until after your first hour of work. Don't miss workouts. Don't skip the system. Even when it's boring. Especially when it's boring, because boredom is where most men fold and where real men begin to rise. You'll never outperform your standards, so raise them, enforce them. Make your days so structured, so intentional, that chaos has no place to land. You won't always feel like showing up. Good, that's the point, because when you move anyway, when you execute in spite of resistance, you're no longer depending on emotion. You're forging identity. An identity once rebuilt doesn't collapse with mood swings. It leads, it drives, it grounds. In a world addicted to dopamine and excuses, be the man who moves in silence, who rises in storms, who doesn't flinch when life punches first. Not because it's easy, but because he's chosen to stop chasing hype and start embodying discipline. That's where everything changes. That's where you change. Now move. 4. The 90-day lock-in blueprint. So how do you turn raw determination into daily execution? Not with tricks, not with hacks, with structure, a blueprint, something you obey whether you feel like it or not. This isn't about motivation anymore. It's about building a system that shapes your identity through action. Discipline isn't random, it's engineered. That's what this is, a 4-pillar system designed to rewire the mind, harden the body, sharpen your purpose, and anchor your spirit. When done daily, these pillars stop being habits. They become your way of life. It begins with the mind. You must feed it deliberately, not with passive consumption, not with noise, but with focused input. Books that challenge you, writing that reveals your patterns, reflection that forces you to confront your own weakness. 1 hour every day. No distractions, no scrolling. You're not entertaining yourself here. You're upgrading your software. This is the download of new beliefs. This is the shaping of a mind that can cut through noise, withstand pressure, and act on clarity. If your thoughts are chaotic, your actions will be scattered. Feed the mind, and the body follows. Then the physical. You don't train to look good. You train to build energy, stamina, and mental steel. 30 to 60 minutes a day. Not optional. Move, sweat, strain. No excuses. No playlist is needed. Your body is your foundation, and if your foundation is weak, everything cracks. You don't have to be in a gym, but you do have to move like a man who's preparing for war. The body fuels the mission. Weak body, weak execution. This is no longer about appearance, it's about capability. Now the mission. Deep work. 90 minutes of full, uninterrupted output. No phone, no tab switching, no multitasking. This is where you build, create, train, and refine. It's where you prove to yourself that you're not just a talker, you're a builder. Whether you're launching a business, learning a craft, writing a book, or searching for your path, this is the battlefield. This is where discipline meets direction. Most men can't sit with focus for longer than 20 minutes without distraction. That's why most men stay average. You will not. Not anymore. You go deep, you go dark, and you produce. And finally, stillness. This is where the internal war is processed. 10 to 20 minutes of deliberate silence. No input, no output, just breath. Awareness, presence. This isn't wasted time. This is calibration. This is how you build clarity in chaos. This is how you step outside the noise of the world and hear your own voice. You can sit in meditation, walk in nature, breathe on the floor. It doesn't matter. What matters is you return to yourself every day, without fail. Because a man who cannot be still is a man who cannot think, and a man who cannot think will always be ruled. These 4 are your pillars: mind, body, mission, and stillness. Alone, each one is powerful. Together, practiced daily, they form a machine, a system for identity transformation. You don't do them because they're trendy. You do them because they work. This is not optimization. This is internal reconstruction. You do them until they become default. You do them until the man who scrolls, skips, and sleeps in has no room left in your life. This is where Stoicism comes alive. Not in what you read, but in how you live. The Stoic man doesn't wait for perfect alignment. He creates it through repetition. He doesn't perform based on weather. He performs based on principle. You want to rewire your life in 90 days? Then follow the blueprint. Show up for all 4 pillars every day without compromise, even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient. That's when the shift begins. Not in excitement, in friction, in the silent, unglamorous grind. That's where real men are formed. You don't rise by doing more. You rise by doing the right things every day, without deviation, without apology. So lock it in. The blueprint is in front of you. All that's left now is obedience. Relentless, boring, powerful obedience. So remember this: 1 hour to feed the mind with intention, not distraction. 30 to 60 minutes to train the body with sweat, not excuses. 90 minutes of deep, focused work, without noise, without escape. And 20 minutes of stillness to reset, reconnect, and reclaim your clarity. These 4 pillars are not suggestions. They are the architecture of your rebirth. Miss one and the structure weakens. Honor all 4 daily and watch what happens. The hesitation dies, the noise fades, and the new identity takes root. Not someday, but now. This is the blueprint. Simple, ruthless, unstoppable. Follow it, or stay the same. If you've made it this far, there's something powerful already alive inside you. The kind of resolve most men never touch. Don't turn back now. You didn't come this far to come halfway. Let's keep going. The man you're becoming is waiting. 5. Control your inputs. Control your life. Your mind is a garden. And right now, for most men, it's overrun with weeds. Negative news, endless scrolling, dopamine-driven outrage, meaningless chatter, choking every root of focus, starving every seed of progress. You can't grow clarity in a mind filled with noise. You can't build discipline when your attention is fractured in 1,000 directions. Success doesn't bloom from polluted soil. It blooms when you cut, clear, and cultivate. Now is the time to become a ruthless gardener, Because what you allow in will become what you act on. And what you act on every day becomes who you are. Start with your feed, that endless stream of opinions, fear, gossip, vanity, and distraction. It is not harmless. It is a weapon against your potential. Every scroll is a vote for chaos. Every comment you read is a tiny withdrawal from your inner vault. You think you're staying informed, you're staying addicted. And addicted minds don't build. They react. They consume. They drown in false urgency and shallow comparison. If your phone is the first thing you touch in the morning, you've already lost the first battle. Because you didn't begin your day with intention, you began it on someone else's terms. Like your body needs clean fuel, your mind needs clean input. You wouldn't live off chips and soda and expect to perform like an athlete. Yet men do this mentally every day. Junk content, shallow voices, outrage on demand. Then they wonder why they can't focus, why they feel anxious, why they keep quitting. It's not a lack of ambition, it's a lack of mental clarity. Clarity is only possible through discipline. That means building a mental diet as strict as a fighter in camp. You don't consume what feels good, you consume what aligns. You consume what multiplies your mission. This is where Stoicism stops being a concept and becomes a filter. The Stoic asks, is this within my control? Is this useful to my purpose? If not, it's cut. No negotiation. You don't need to know what everyone thinks. You don't need to hear every take. You need to be still enough to hear your own thoughts again. Most men have forgotten what that even feels like. You want to be dangerous? Quiet the world. Because a man who can sit in silence and stay grounded cannot be manipulated. He becomes unshakable, and unshakable men are rare. That's your edge. Start cleaning house, physically and digitally. Remove the noise, mute the group chats, unfollow the voices that drain you. Turn off notifications, silence the apps. This isn't minimalism for aesthetics, it's mental warfare. Every random ping you eliminate is one more ounce of focus gained. And focus, once reclaimed, becomes power. Because now you're not reacting, you're designing, you're shaping your day instead of surviving it. Guard your inputs like a vault. Not because you're soft, because your mission is too important to be diluted. The next 90 days are about total alignment. That means your phone, your home, your conversations, your schedule, all of it must serve the man you're building. If it doesn't multiply your strength, it's stealing from it. Treat everything around you like a system, and treat that system like sacred ground. You can't build momentum if your attention resets every hour. You can't go deep if you're interrupted every 10 minutes. Rewire your space, rewire your patterns, make your environment harder to break, create friction for distraction. Put your phone in another room, block the websites that waste your time, say no to drama, be unavailable for nonsense. Because every yes to distraction is a no to progress. Every click is a compromise. Every conversation that doesn't elevate is a chain pulling you back to the version of you that never finished what he started. You are not here to be entertained. You are here to evolve. You don't need more stimulation. You need structure. You don't need more information. You need inner fire. And that fire dies every time you feed it poison. Protect your focus like your future depends on it, because it does. You don't rise by consuming more. You rise by consuming better. Discipline begins with what you let in. What you read, what you listen to, who do you talk to, what you tolerate. Clean the weeds. Tend the roots. Plant the kind of thoughts you want to live in, because what you feed the mind will eventually show up in the man. 6. Command yourself. Don't negotiate. You wake up. It's dark, cold. The alarm cuts through the silence, and in that moment, the real battle begins. Not with the world, but with the voice inside. The one that whispers 5 more minutes. The one that always has a reason to delay, to soften, to settle. But you're done negotiating. That voice doesn't lead anymore. You do. There's no debate, no internal roundtable. From this point forward, you don't try, you execute. You don't ask, you act. The command begins where negotiation ends. This is how warriors think. This is how high performers move. This is the shift from reaction to self-governance. The Stoics called it living in accordance with reason, not emotion, not impulse, not comfort. Marcus Aurelius didn't consult his fatigue when the empire burned. He wrote orders to his own mind. Rise, do your duty, focus on what you control. That's the highest form of self-respect, to become your own commander, not your own excuse maker. Most men lose because they hesitate. They ask themselves if they feel ready. They check in with their emotions before they move. That ends here. Your emotions no longer cast votes. They no longer have authority. You are the authority now. This is identity anchoring, aligning your behavior with the man you are becoming, not the man you're escaping. You act from the future, not the past. You lead from decision, not desire. You've said, "I'll try," before. It didn't work. Trying leaves the back door open. Trying means you're still hoping conditions will be perfect, but the man who commands doesn't hope. He declares. He moves. He builds momentum, not from feeling, but from alignment. And alignment isn't abstract. It's simple. Define who you are. Then act like him, especially when you don't feel like it, because those moments are the forge. That's where old patterns break and new standards take shape. Every time you act in spite of resistance, you carve a deeper groove in your identity. Every time you override emotion with execution, your brain learns, this is who we are now. This is the rewiring, not with affirmations, with action, with rhythm, with ritual. You rise, not to chase motivation, but because your standard demands it. You train, not to look good, but because you're building durability. You work, not when it's easy, but because your word is law. This is no longer about doing your best. It's about doing what's required. You don't build unshakable confidence by getting hyped. You build it by keeping your word to yourself so many times that doubt gets evicted. That's what real power feels like. Quiet, precise, non-negotiable. It doesn't flex. It doesn't shout. It just shows up, day after day, regardless of what the world throws at it. Your mission is no longer optional. You don't get to ask yourself, do I feel like it today? That question is dead. The only question now is what must be done. And then you do it. Without stalling, without drama, without scrolling. Because action is what separates the man who transforms from the one who merely fantasizes. Every morning, the battlefield resets, and every day, you have a chance to dominate it by deciding who's in command. You or the weak voice begging for comfort. So take the reins, set non-negotiables and obey them. Wake up early, not to suffer, but to gain ground before the world wakes. Build a rhythm so strong you no longer think about what's next, you just move. Strip out every decision that can be made once. Automate your priorities. Turn your identity into a machine fueled by commitment, not feelings. That's how discipline wins. That's how warriors operate. This is how Marcus lived. How Epictetus trained. How you rise, not with drama, not with hype, but by becoming a man who follows through on what he commands. Because when you stop asking how you feel and start demanding who you must be, the war ends and your reign begins. 7. Track it or it didn't happen. The feeling of "I'm doing pretty well" is often the most seductive form of self-deception. You think you're building discipline, you think you're on track, but feelings lie. Data doesn't. Without proof, progress is just a story you tell yourself. And stories don't transform men, systems do. Ask yourself this: if no one's watching and nothing is tracked, did it really happen? It's like playing a game with no scoreboard. How do you know you're winning? You don't. You guess. Guessing is a luxury you can't afford in a war of identity. Imagine a man building a wall. He lays brick after brick, convinced it's straight. But when he steps back and checks with a level, he sees it. The tilt, the flaw, the slow drift. Without a reference point, even the best-intentioned effort skews. That's what a habit tracker is. It's your level, your compass, your battlefield report. You might think you're consistent, you might believe you're locked in, but until it's written, it didn't happen. This is your new law. If it's not on the tracker, it doesn't exist. Track the number of pages you read, the minutes you trained, the hours you went deep. Track when you meditated, when you woke up, when you didn't negotiate with yourself. Why? Because repetition without reflection becomes a blind habit, and blind habit isn't growth. This is about awareness. This is about anchoring discipline into something visible, countable, and undeniable. Because what gets measured gets respected, and what gets respected gets repeated. The Stoics didn't journal to be poetic. They did it to inspect the soul, to expose gaps, to reinforce virtue. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself not for motivation, but for calibration. To hold the line. You do the same, you write it down, You face the truth daily. You stop relying on memory, which is shaped by emotion and bias. You rely on records, on evidence. This is what separates the talkers from the builders. The men who think they're progressing from the men who know it. Tracking isn't glamorous. It's not flashy. It's quiet, exact, and brutally honest. And that's why it works. Because when you see 5 check marks in a row, your mind knows it's building momentum. When you see a gap, your standard confronts it, not your excuse. The human brain craves progress, but it must see it. That check mark, that filled-in box, that visual cue, it's dopamine tied to discipline. You've been giving dopamine to distractions. Now you give it to proof. So print the calendar. Build the wall chart. Use sticky notes if you must. Create a scorecard so brutally clear that you can't hide from it. When you miss a day, mark it in red. When you show up, mark it in black. And when the wall is done, 90 days tall, you won't need to say a word. The scoreboard will speak for you. The discipline will show through the numbers. No speech, just results. There's no shame in imperfection. The shame is in pretending you're further along than you are. The shame is in drifting through life, hoping something clicks, while refusing to confront the facts. You are in a performance season now, not for the world. For you, for the future you're trying to become. And performance requires measurement, relentless, cold, clear. You don't have to track everything, but you must track the essentials. The identity builders, the rituals that, stacked over time, reshape the man. You do it daily, not weekly, not when it's convenient, daily, because identity is shaped in small moments, repeated with fierce intention, and repetition only holds power when it's kept accountable. That's what tracking is. Accountability without emotion, feedback without filter. This is how warriors sharpen their edge, not with more effort, with more precision. You don't rise through guesses, you rise through numbers, through standards, through data that leaves no room for lies. Stop hoping you're on track. Start knowing, build the scoreboard, obey the scoreboard, and by day 90, the results will be too loud to ignore. 8. Push through the walls. Don't romanticize this. The next 90 days will not be smooth. You will bleed, you will break, and right when you think you're getting somewhere, you will slam into the wall. Not just once, again and again. It's built into the process. On day 9, the novelty fades. On day 30, the doubt begins. On day 60, the boredom bites. You will want to stop. Your mind will whisper, maybe this isn't working. Your body will scream, we've done enough. But this is not the finish line. This is the threshold. The point where 99% of men fold. The moment that separates boys who try from warriors who transform. Think of ultra-marathoners, men like David Goggins. They hit the wall, not once, but dozens of times in a single race. Muscles shutting down, joints on fire, vision blurring. But they keep running, not because they're superhuman, but because they've trained their minds to move beyond the scream. That wall isn't the end, it's the test. And behind that test is the real version of you, the one your old self is terrified of meeting. The wall exists to ask you one question: how bad do you want to change? Most lie, most stop, but not you. The Stoics knew this wall well. It wasn't a physical barrier. It was the friction between desire and discipline, between the life you say you want and the price required to earn it. Epictetus taught that difficulty is what trains the soul. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the obstacle is the way. So when your mind says this is too much, that's not a sign to back off. That's the door. You don't yell at it. You walk through it, quietly, relentlessly, without flinching. Because victory is not loud. It's a man continuing to move when no one is watching. Every transformation has its graveyard, the place where people bury their goals with excuses. You will stand in that graveyard. You will feel the pull to stop, to renegotiate, to scale back. But that's when the work begins. Not when it's exciting, when it's silent, when no one cares. When the only thing keeping you upright is the decision you made on day 1. And you hold that line, not because it feels good, but because that's who you said you'd become. There's no shortcut through the wall, no mindset trick, no quick fix. Only action, only forward. You wake up and show up. You do the reps, you keep the routine sacred, even when it feels dry, slow, pointless. Because that's the battlefield. That's where you either break or become unbreakable. If you always quit at the wall, you will always be rebuilding. always chasing sparks, always stuck in the same loop. But if you push once, fully, brutally, without compromise, you will discover something terrifying and powerful. The wall was never real. It was built by the man you used to be. So remember this when you hit it again. It will come cloaked in fatigue, in doubt, in the illusion of progress without payoff. But you are not here for quick rewards. You are here to rebuild your identity. That doesn't happen in a weekend. It happens in the dark, in the grind, in the days where nothing seems to move, but you move anyway. Because every step through that resistance carves a new standard into your mind. And soon, the wall becomes the floor. The barrier becomes the base. You don't push through it anymore. You rise from it. This is the Stoic path, lived in real time. Not discussed, not theorized, executed. You wake up, you take command. And when the enemy shows up, you don't flinch. The friction is not your enemy. It's the forge. The wall is not your failure. It's your proof. Walk through it in silence, with steel in your eyes and fire in your breath. And when you emerge, the world won't recognize you, but you will finally recognize yourself. 9. From repetition to revelation. One day, you'll wake up and realize something has shifted. The grind that once felt like a burden now feels like breath. The morning routine is no longer a checklist. It's your center. The cold shower, the training, the silence, the deep work. It's no longer about discipline. It's identity. You don't push yourself anymore. You move forward because this is who you are now. This is the reward no one talks about. Not the external success, not the applause, but the quiet, unshakable clarity that comes when the work becomes your nature. You don't just change habits, you emit a different presence. Your posture, your gaze, your walk, they all speak before your mouth does. Because you carry something most men don't: alignment. Every action matches the man you said you'd become. That's rare. That's power. You don't have to explain it. People feel it. Not through words, but through the force you carry into the room. This isn't performance. It's a revelation. The kind that only repetition, pain, stillness, and silence can unlock. Think of the master cellist, Yo-Yo Ma. After thousands of hours, he doesn't play with effort. He channels something beyond technique. Or Einstein, scribbling equations long after others would have stopped, not to force brilliance, but because the rhythm became the gateway to intuition. That's what happens when the cycle of discipline gets deep enough. You stop thinking your way through life, and you begin being your purpose. The wall is behind you. The old identity is unrecognizable. And now, the momentum doesn't push you, it pulls you. This is not hype. This is precision. This is presence earned through fire. You've moved past dopamine, past motivation, past needing to be convinced. What once felt like a battle is now calm, because you've trained your nervous system to operate on command, not emotion. You've built an internal compass so exact that the noise of the world can't shake it. The craving for approval is gone, the hunger for comfort silenced. You no longer need external validation because your scoreboard is written in steel across your days. Not for show, for structure. This is the Stoic endgame, not to become numb, not to become cold, but to become so anchored in principle that the chaos outside never penetrates the mission inside. The world may try to sway you, seduce you, break you, but you've gone too far. You've burned the exit, you've rewritten the code. And now, it's not just about what you do, it's about how you exist. How do you think? How you carry pressure without bending? How you move without noise? How you command space without needing attention? This is the rare air few breathe, the reward for those who endure the silence long enough to hear the voice of certainty. And when people ask what changed, you don't need to speak. They'll see it in your work, in your eyes, in your discipline that no longer flinches. They'll feel it before you say a word. That's what transformation is. Not surface, not noise, but energy. So when the 90th day comes, don't celebrate, don't post, just keep going. Because the reward is not the finish line, it's the man who finishes, the man who emerges sharper, quieter, untouchable. Because the world can't shake what you've built in silence. Because the man you were is gone. And the man you are now, he doesn't need motivation. He breathes momentum. He is the mission. When the dust settles and the noise fades, what remains is not what you hope to become, but what you trained for. These 90 days are not a gimmick. They are a forge, a system of radical consistency. A disciplined path for rewiring your brain, reshaping your identity, and resetting your life from the inside out. And as we've walked through each pillar, from burning the exits to anchoring identity, mastering momentum, and tracking the invisible war, one truth stands above the rest. You don't rise by chance, you rise by design. Discipline over motivation. Stillness over distraction, execution over emotion. These aren't lofty ideals, they are daily practices. Real, repeatable, non-negotiable. You now have the blueprint. What happens next is your decision. Will you retreat to who you've always been, or show up as the man no one, not even you, will recognize after 90 days? Remember, you don't have to be perfect. You only need to be consistent. Each day you practice deep work, physical training, mental clarity, and intentional stillness, you reinforce a new identity. Each act becomes a vote for the future of you. And through repetition, that identity becomes real. It becomes effortless. It becomes you. So take this not as a message, but as a mandate. Live it, track it, sharpen it. Let discipline become your language, silence become your power, and presence becomes your legacy. The man who commits without excuse becomes unstoppable. And now I'd love to hear from you. What part of this challenge resonates most with you? What will you commit to starting tomorrow? Share your story in the comments below. Because transformation may be personal, but the journey is something we build together.